posterity. That would be awesome. So I think everybody's muted. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you guys all joining us for another one of our interviews of one of our spectacular business owners in our local community. And today we have the pleasure of hosting Carolyn Triebold. And I think you will get some great nuggets from her. Carolyn, I'm going to go ahead and add you as a spotlight. So welcome back to the 21st century, Carolyn. You guys might not know, but she has been without power for 2 days.
Yay.
How
So much fun.
how did you guys handle it?
Hung out at the office. The office had power and internet. So, you make do. So you figure it out.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad you're back and running now. So thank you for being brave enough to come visit with us. We appreciate it. So I sent you some of the questions we're going to ask, and we'll start at the top. First of all, how long have you been in the real estate business?
I've been in the business since 2004. So about going on 17 years.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah, it flies by, right?
It does.
And how did you get your clients in the beginning of your career?
So I kind of went into this business, really buying my own real estate, doing it for myself. So in 2004, I didn't hang with anybody. I'm a broker. So I kind of did my own deals. And then, my first client actually came from my sphere. So it was actually it was my kids' school. And for those of you who have kids in school, what a great resource you have in that. And you only grow with those folks. So my first listing, my first sale was a resource, a grandma volunteer at our kids' school. And, she's still a friend to this day. So lots of additional referrals from them over the years.
And is that really your sphere, is where you started gaining clients?
Yeah, people just started, saying to me, I really wasn't going to be an agent. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a licensed therapist. That's what I was doing when I got my broker's license. And so clients would come and just friends would come and say, I'd really like you to represent me. And so we just started from that standpoint, just utilizing the sphere. And I really utilize the school a lot. The PTA, being involved with the PTA, sponsoring things from a real estate perspective with the PTA. And people just started to come to me, which was really nice.
And how did you keep track of those people? Did you have a database from the beginning and start marketing to them, or how was it organized? Or
I didn't. So I'm gonna, I kind of started off not organized. I mean, really for a long time. I'm not, everything's in my head. It's not out on paper necessarily. I do now have a CRM. I do now have everybody in my, I've got my long list of people, and I do have a database that I kind of kept just because it got so big that I was starting to need something to organize me a little bit more. So I initially started in my head, and whatever way you have a list, honestly, what really works for me is I use a grease board on my wall, and I have a list of my escrows, and I have a list of my buyer needs and price points. And when I check the hot sheet in the morning, I look at my grease board and I look at my I look at the hot sheet and I see, well, who could I fit into that, home, or how can I get a home to fit this client need?
that's great. That's a great tip, because that's a really good combination of a little bit of old school and also now having a database so you can market regularly. But no, that's a fantastic combination. So these days, where are you getting your clients from?
So I'm pretty much client referral. Luckily, being in the business for 16, 17 years, you do start to establish that base where people will call you back. It was so, I mean, and I've moved, so I've moved offices. And so I try to keep my current information out there, but people don't really pay attention to it. So a couple months ago, somebody runs in my office and I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this guy in 7 years. He's like, I've tracked you down. I figured you out. I went to Westlake first. You weren't there. So now I'm here. I need you to sell my house and buy me another one, you know? So
That's good. That's good.
yeah.
And how about farming? Have you ever done consistent farming, or do you do that now? Like of an
I do. I have an area, a consistent farm, and I send pretty much, I do a little old school and a little new school. I do a monthly postcard. And so I try to create a card that is going to give something of value to my clients. So that's been really helpful to me. I also will utilize that farm to send out need letters if I have a need for a client. I've had clients save those need letters, and then when they were ready to sell, they say, you probably don't have this client anymore. It's been 18 months, but will you sell my house, kind of thing. So it's great that they hold on to those pieces of paper. Not everybody does, you know, usually they hit the trash and nobody really knows, but it's even if it's subliminal, they see me on a regular basis, and so they know that I'm working the area pretty
Good.
full time.
That's really good. And how about your daily habits? What kind of daily habits do you have that helps you in your business?
You know, honestly, the hot sheet is a big deal. So, you know, you get up in the morning and you check the hot sheet, and I'll probably check the hot sheet 2 or 3 times a day, just because clients are getting if I hate when a client sees a house before I do. I want to know that the house exists. So that's really probably one of my biggest tools that I use. And, you know, this is a full-time job for me. So I treat it as a full-time job. I get up in the morning, I do my own routine, and then I want to get either into the office or at a client call. I mean, like this morning, you know, our business takes us so many places. So I'm in the car while my home inspection is being done, and then I'll pop back off. So, you know, every day is different, but I pretty much will answer my phone if I can, as much as possible.
Mhm.
So that's a big deal for me, is taking calls, and I don't let them go to voicemail, just because oftentimes if it's, I think in December alone, I took 3 calls that were just out of the blue. They Googled me, they figured it out. And, you know, if I hadn't answered that call, they might've gone on to the next person. And those 3 calls, I think, equaled $3 million worth of closures in December.
Nice.
So answering my phone is important.
Nice. So I don't know if you knew Josie Ralston. Before she passed, she was at Remax for 30
No,
something years. But she taught me that too, that lady would pick up that phone no matter what. And I've adopted the same thing as much as possible. I mean, I'm not going to answer in the restroom, but if I can answer the phone, I will. And people are often surprised. I think that's what's interesting about that, is I hear often that realtors don't answer their phones. So I think that's a really good piece of advice, is if you can answer your phone, you should. Okay, so another question for you is, how do you take time for yourself? I mean, even in those, daily habits you mentioned for business, but how about for self-care? Do you have a morning routine or a nighttime routine, or are there things you do on the weekends? Like, what do you do for you?
I try, and I'm pretty bad about it. I need a calendar. You know, I love to do yoga in the morning before I start work, and that's really an important piece. But I need to calendar it more, and I need to pay attention to it more. I tend to let work take over sometimes and don't give myself such a opportunity to do personal time. But my personal time is, I try to also get away and go up to Mammoth and be in the mountains and hike and ski, and that's my thing, and it rejuvenates me. And, you know, honestly, we've been doing Mammoth pretty much all the time that I've been in real estate, and I love to be able to sell a house on the slopes. Like, that's my thing. So I'm in Mammoth, and I'm still going to answer my phone. If my phone rings and I'm on a lift, I will stick my phone in my helmet, and sold many houses that way. So
Very nice. Very nice. That's great. So one of the questions that I've asked people like you that have been doing this a long time is, when did it start getting easier? We all know it's a grind, and it's especially hard to get started in the beginning. Is there a time that you turned a corner and felt like business was easier?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I would say that I've been successful in my way of successful, everybody's got their own measure of success, right? And so, I think there's so many of us who are successful in the way we want it to work for us. But one of the things that I've used in this market is adapt. I mean, you have to adapt to what it is. And I remember starting off in '04, and right around '07, when things started to hit the skids, I got a call from my broker, and I thought she was going to ask me for my office. Like, I know I'm not doing enough, and this isn't really working for me, and this is hard. And I thought, oh, she's going to ask for my office. I'm just going to give it up. Like, I don't need to be doing this. And she didn't ask me that. She asked me to put together a foreclosure business with Mara Lee, who I partner with, or I have partnered with much of my time. And I thought, well, that's different. That's kind of interesting. So we adapted, put together an REO program. She would list them. I would sell, not necessarily those, but I would pick up buyers. And when I kind of made it at that time, what I decided is each sign in the yard needed to convert to 2 buyers.
Hmm.
And I love buyers. I like to keep it pretty even 50-50, but I love working with buyers. And so I loved converting, sign calls to a client. That's my favorite thing to do.
Nice. Well,
So
and
that's when it started to get easier, is when I started to say, you know what, I'm just going to make this work for me.
that's really interesting, because it wasn't about necessarily about the business coming in. It was really about your change in
Totally.
your head. You were
I
at
think a lot of this is how we look at it. I mean, a lot of times people look at things as a fight. I don't look at, buyer and seller opposite ends. Like, we're all in this together to figure out a way to make it work for everybody, so it's a win-win all around. Both agents win, both buyer and seller win. That's the way I want to walk out at every deal. Doesn't always happen that way, because sometimes it gets a little emotional and contentious. But really, if we can make it work in a way that everybody feels like they got a little piece of it, and they want a little something, that's really important.
Yeah, no, and I can attest to that, to the audience. Carolyn and I just did a transaction together towards the end of last year, and absolutely collaborative. And how do we make this work for everybody? And it wasn't my side, your side. It was we're both going in the same direction. We want the same destination. Let's work together. So yeah, definitely appreciate that about you, Carolyn. Good mentality to have. So talking about the business side of things, how do you track the money part for yourself in your business?
So when I moved over to Dilbeck Real Estate, I decided that at that point I would incorporate. So I do run it as a corporation for my own business, and everything's done on QuickBooks, and then I hand it off to my accountant. And so for me, the corporation really was a better way to work. Kind of hit me a little hard though when the PPP money came along, because I had to, whatever I paid myself was what I had to make it work. So there's plus sides and minus sides with incorporating, but I use QuickBooks, and I just record everything as it comes in, and then I hand it off to my accountant. And
Wow, that's excellent. I think that's the reason I asked this question is because it's common in the real estate business for us to just use our personal checking account or use our personal credit card. And my personal experience is, once I changed that and I made everything separate, there was not the panic at the end of the year of getting the taxes done and getting the bookkeeping pulled together. So I appreciate that. Even though you're not the corporate owner, you've created your own corporate of your company. You've created your own corporation as a realtor.
Yeah, and even before I incorporated, ever since I started, I have always had a separate checking account. So if it's and I have an, I also still, would do therapy with clients. That has a separate checking account.
Good.
So anything needed, not that we even use checks this much anymore, but, bill pay online or whatever, I just keep everything separate. And then I even have a credit card with my logo on it. Visa will put your logo on it. So it's really easy for me to throw it out there.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I take note, any of you who have found those tax time days getting really difficult, this is something, it's a really good practice to have one credit card for all of your business expenses, one banking account for all of your business expenses. It just makes life a lot easier, whether you're incorporated or not.
Right.
So considering today's market and the challenges, and you are a buyer's agent and a listing agent, so let's have you put on each hat. As a listing agent, what do you want to see in offers? I mean, we're seeing many offers on most properties. What do you think wins the day?
Well, first of all, clean offers are really important. So often, unfortunately, a lot of times they can be messy, and that's not any slight on anybody. Sometimes we get really busy and we do it really quickly, and I've been there myself. But you've got to take the time to review your offer, because now you're sending it via DocuSign, and your clients aren't asking you very often about questions. So do a double check on your offer. Um, you know, in this market, it depends on the property. Sometimes I might waive appraisal. Sometimes I don't recommend that. I certainly don't recommend ever waiving inspection contingencies. That's just not something that I wouldn't want a buyer to, because I wouldn't want to. I've had people do that and still be really, usually those are the people that back out on the loan contingency. I mean, so that's not going to attract me as a listing agent. What's going to attract me is also professional follow-up. Don't just send an offer and not check to see, either send a text or a phone call. Anytime that I'm writing an offer as a buyer's agent, I'm going to call the listing agent and say, what's important to your client? Let me know, well, I don't know. There's not, sometimes I get really good answers or really good information. Other times I get, I don't know, just write the best offer. And I try to say to them, your client must have something that's important. Is timing important? Is money the driving factor? What's the situation? Why are they selling? Oh, they're divorcing. Does anybody need extra time? I really try to dive in a little bit deeper into the other side to understand what their needs are, so that everybody's needs can be met.
Yeah, no, that's really good counsel. And sometimes you can't predict what is going to be important to the sellers. I just lost a deal this weekend we were willing to pay 5,000 more, but the sellers felt more comfortable with a much bigger down payment. They were willing to give up money for the big down payment, and you can't control that. But other times, maybe a seller needs a rent back, and if they were offered it, that might make the difference, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you.
I've also lately
Go ahead.
I've also gotten really creative in terms of some different ways of writing things in, and just saying, we're now seeing escalation clauses, which I'm not a huge fan of, but for the right person, the right house, it might work. The other thing would be, I had another situation where I wrote an offer and I said, it was about I said, you have the option of a rent back at these terms, as long as you let us know in 10 days that you want to exercise it. So just to let the seller and the seller's agent know that there's some wiggle room in there.
That's great. That's really great. And so what are you doing on your, well, actually, I think you already answered that question. So next question would be, what tips would you have for a newer agent? Like, this is a tougher than usual time to start in the real estate business, I think, but we have new agents. So what would you recommend for them?
Answer your phone. That's like a number one, is really just answer your phone. But here's the thing. If I get a call, if I answer a phone call, know the inventory. really know the inventory. That's what, I mean, we're missing that with Caravan a little bit, but when you run your hot sheet, know what's out there. So sometimes when I answer my phone, if I realize it's a lead, I am on the internet, I'm on the MLS right away, and I'm putting in their criteria as they tell me. And then what I try to do, because oftentimes, you know, when a lead comes in, you don't want to say, well, I'm here to help if you need me to buy or sell for you. Instead, what I start to do is kind of engage them in questions. So I might say, oh, did you see that one on lemon? That do you have any idea how that's going to work for you? And then they might say, well, oh, that's just too big, or that's too much. Oh, that's right. And so, you know, I was in this one 2 days ago, I was showing such and such. That might work a little bit better. Let me send it to you real quick. And then boom, you've got their email, and they're looking, oh, that's really great. You know, that really makes sense for me. So use your tools in your MLS on the phone right then to be able to say to them, so that you're giving them value.
I love it. Those are fantastic tips. I hope the newer people are listening carefully and taking notes. That's awesome. Now, how about agents who have been in the business for a while? What kind of advice would you give them if they're ready to maybe bump things up a little bit, take it to the next level?
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting one. It depends on the person. I think mindset is really a big deal, in terms of what you kind of narrow it down. I am a terrible goal setter. I don't really, that's not my thing. I know a lot of people love getting good coaching, and I know a lot of agents who've been very successful with it. Um, I think really think about, I think last week Blake mentioned set a price point. That's it. Put the price point in your mind. Like, what you put out there will come to fruition. I think it's really important if you really believe it can. The other thing would be to see who you want to emulate.
Mm.
You know, who's ahead of you in this market. What realtor is out there who you would like to be a little bit more like, or utilize some of their strategies. This is a great business to copy. I mean, people copy all the time, but whatever you do copy, make sure that you're true to yourself. I don't door knock. So, I mean, door knocking doesn't work for me. That would make me not only uncomfortable, I just wouldn't feel good about doing it for me. That's not to say that it's not a great tool. It's a super tool. There's some people that slay door knocking. I mean, they're amazing at it. I'm not. So do something that really you're good at. Do something that you believe in. You can step outside of your comfort zone. Like right now, video and Zoom stuff, that's outside my comfort zone, but you know, whatever, you look like that, you talk like that, you are that. So put it out there. Like, that's who you are. So that's what I would say for an existing agent. Go take it to the next level. Take a look at who you want to follow in their footsteps a little bit. And then that, like, made a great suggestion last week about, you know, partnering with somebody on their business to slowly start to take over, if that's what you want to do.
No, those are some really great thoughts that you're sharing. And I think mindset has come up a couple times in our conversation. It's a hard one to get right, but when you do, it
Yeah.
certainly makes a difference on your business and growing it, and even just enjoying your business. I think, you know, we can get tired pretty easy in this business. So
Jana, that's a really good point. I think for a while I was fighting the business a little bit. I wasn't enjoying the business. And I think, you know, one of the things I did was, and it really made a big difference for me, was I became involved in the association, and I started learning more about the bigger picture of our industry. And that really helped me have a sense of pride in what we do. I just, and I really was feeling a part of it. So that made a big difference in my mindset about this job and what we do for people and housing, and, you know, what we advocate for on a state and national level.
That's great. That's a great point. In fact, I think I didn't really know you at all until I saw you speaking as treasurer. And I was really impressed with what you were sharing with us and how you made it so plain and easily understandable. Was it treasurer that you had?
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
your,
yeah.
it's like, oh, that lady's awesome. I
Oh,
like her. Yeah.
likewise, Jana.
Thank you. So let's see. Any questions out there? I've covered a lot of questions, but I'm looking in the chat room. Let me put on my old lady glasses and see if anybody has anything there. Anything to share? I'm seeing, I love Carolyn in the chat room. And I think Tim was mentioning that was a great point of getting involved as a really important one. That's really nice. Well, is there any last thoughts that you would like to share, Carolyn?
No, I mean, I think, you guys have a great leader in Jana on the caravan. I think you do a super great job and really giving good content. And I hope somebody took some nuggets today, but honestly, this is we have a tough job. We really do. And we, every day there's something to fight with. And I think that just making it less of a fight and making it more of a problem solving,
Yeah,
it just it starts to get a lot better and a lot easier.
it definitely does. And I thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. And I have to say, I really have grown. My appreciation for our real estate community in general has just grown and grown over the last year, to see how supportive everybody has been and coming together and helping each other. I think our little area is kind of special. When I talk to realtors from other areas, I don't think they enjoy the camaraderie we do. So it's really nice. And one of the newer agents in the chat room is thanking you and appreciating you taking the time to share. Claudia said thank you, and also another agent said thank you. Great pieces of advice for a new agent. So awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. We appreciate it. Well,
Thanks, guys.
okay, good luck on your inspection.
All right, I'm off to the inspection. Thanks so much. Take
Okay,
care.
fantastic. All right, let's see if we can let